Thanks, Chair. First, I would like to convey my thanks to NIICE for inviting me to attend this conference and meeting many old friends. Because of the COVID situation, I think it's quite difficult to have a meeting face to face. But I think it's also, I'm very glad to meet many old friends through the virtual meeting. And as to the rise of China, I think that just now the chair has also mentioned that there are many debates about the rise of China, and even concluded from other speakers. I think that different people have different understanding about the rise of China, because I remember that in the 1990s, there are also some discussions of the collapse of China. And even now, it's a natural fact that China has achieved great achievements. There are still some suspicions of some debates. For example, just now, some professor mentioned that China still lags behind in many areas, such like technology, etc. So maybe it's not the real rise of China. And also, Professor Deepak has mentioned that actually in the 2003 around, China will prefer to use the word of the peaceful development instead of the rise. So I think that even on the meaning of the rise of China, there are still debates. So I will not talk about the rise of China, but I think that it's a fact that China has achieved a great achievement. So I would like to talk about the peaceful development or the great achievement China has achieved during past decades. And I would like to talk about the reasons to share my experience, understandings about the reasons why China can achieve such a great developments economically or the social development, etc. Not only from a scholar, but also a common Chinese people. I think that I conclude 3 reasons I think is very key to the peaceful development of China. One is about the strong leadership of the CPC and hard working of the Chinese people. Of course, there are many, I read many Western newspapers or publications. I know that there are some different understandings about the role of the CPC, but as a common Chinese people, I think that if you read about the Chinese history, if you read about the history of the CPC, you will notice that I think that without strong leadership of the CPC, maybe China will not achieve such a great achievement. If you look at the Chinese history, I think that the strong center or strong leadership at the center level, I think it's a Chinese, it's a gene of the Chinese system. Even maybe from the Qin dynasty, the Qin Shi Huang is the first king to unite China. I think centralized the system. So I think that if you look at Chinese history and China, if there's no strong center, then maybe China will fall apart. So I think that, and even this year is next week, we will mark the 100 years anniversary of the CPC. At the time of the founding of the CPC, I think that what kind of China it looks like. We are facing the dangers of the invasions from other imperialists, and also the wars between the warlords. So I think that the CPC, when it was first founded, just around 50 members, and now it's around 91 million members. So I think it's a great magic. And why? So although there are many suspicions or discussions about the CPC, I think that if you talk with the Chinese people, I think it's undeniable fact that without CPC leadership, I think China will not achieve such a great achievement. Just take 2 examples compared with other developing countries. For example, the education. I think that Chinese, I remember that in the 1950s around, China conducted such kind of the campaign to eliminate the illiteracy. So now China's literacy rate almost 100%. I think maybe my parents' generation they are born at the 1950s or even older. Maybe there are still some illiterate people, but now the literacy rate almost 100%. I think it's a great achievement compared with compared with other developing countries. The second one is a poverty elevation. I think that according to the data, China now, I found the fact that just a few months, I think that China released the poverty elevation, China's experience and contribution. According to the figure, China till this year, we help around 99 million people to help them get rid of the poverty. And now we eliminate the extreme poverty. So I'm from the village. So I just share my experience that if you look at the development, not only the cities, but go to the villages, you will notice that what kind of the great achievement we have made. The most great achievements not happens in the cities, but happens in the villages. Because now the village people can enjoy a very good people, and there are basketball grounds, and we set up the cultural centers, etc. So I think that these two, education and poverty elimination, I think is a great experience of the achievement under the leadership of the CPC. And of course, hard working of the Chinese people is also a very important fact. So that I think that, for example, the manufacturing level and also the infrastructure, I think that Chinese laborers and the Chinese people, they pay much sacrifices to lay the foundation of the current level. So this is the first reason. The second reason is that I think that we are sticking to the foreign policy, trying to maintain relatively stable external environment. Just now, Professor Panda has shared his understanding about the Chinese, the so-called assertive foreign policy. But I think that to much extent, Chinese foreign policy is the so-called assertive is to much extent is reactive. We are not the first party to proactive to take such kind of the policy. If you look at the facts and the figures, and I think that since 1949, I think China, of course, our external environment, there are many challenges, even since the founding of the Republic of China, Communist Republic of China. I think that even so, we still stick, particularly after the 1978, I think the open and reform policy. I think that there's some great change of our foreign policy, and we try to stick to the foreign policy should serve the development of the domestic development. So that's why we provide some very innovative ways to tackle the difficulty or challenges or some thorny issues with other countries. For example, just now some speakers mentioned about the South China Sea issue. Actually, we also I remember that a few years ago we mentioned about the dual track way, because we think that the China and the ASEAN relevant countries, we can tackle this issue relatively well without the foreign interventions. So I think even now, under the pressures of even the China, even the United States, viewed China as the long-term strategic competitor, we still never give up, and we still hope that we can have healthy relationship with the United States. So I think, of course, it does not mean that China should give up or will give up on issues of the core national interest. But it does not mean that China has changed our foreign policy, or China will now take more assertive foreign policy. Just look at the economic figures, etc. I think that China still make efforts to maintain the stability of the global globalization, economical globalization, and China still hope that we can have good relationship with other countries, etc. So the third reason, or the third lesson, is that I think that the way try to maintain the balance between three keywords: reform, development, and stability. Without reform, there will be no development. But if the reform pushed forward too hard, or then maybe there are also some negative backouts. So I think that we should try to maintain the balance between the reform, development, and stability. The reform should be useful, conducive to the development, and the development should be sustainable and balanced development. It should not enlarge the gap between the poor and rich. Of course, maybe I think it's unstoppable, but I think that we try to maintain the balanced and sustainable development. So the stability also is quite important. So that's why we will still stick to the strong leadership of the CPC, because without stability, if the social, if we follow the other countries' political system, etc., maybe there will be no stability, and the stability is the foundation, basic foundation for the development. So I think that we tackle reform, development, and stability. We should make some kind of the balance. So what kind of the implications of the Chinese peaceful development? I think it's undeniable. There are some misperceptions, and also there are some uneasiness from other countries. And I will not, it's a fact. I will not say that everyone should be happy with Chinese development. Of course, I think that Chinese development is quite good positive to the other country. So I think that I will just share three positive perspectives that China can contribute, that Chinese peaceful development can contribute to other countries. First is that I think Chinese development or Chinese peaceful development provide some lessons for the other developing countries. And now the global situation is quite different from the era of when the current developed Western countries when they become developed countries. So I think that the Chinese lessons is quite good for the other developing countries to learn how to achieve the economic development, how to achieve social development under the current situation. For example, the number one situation is that we should not copy the other countries' political system. We should learn from the other countries, but we should not copy, even not copy Chinese way of development. Every country have your own unique characteristics. So that's why we stick to the non-interference policy, because we know that, we understand that every country, maybe the system is good for China, but not good for other countries, not good for India, not for Nepal, etc. So I think that Chinese development at least provide very precious lessons for the other developing countries. The second implication is that I think China now is the second largest economy in the world and the biggest developing country in the world. We can contribute more to the development or to the world development, particularly to the development of the economic developing countries, such like the One Belt and One Road initiative. I think through One Belt and One Road initiative, we provide many finance support to the other countries to develop their infrastructure, etc. For example, there's a figure that it is estimated that before 2040, China will invest around 26 trillion US dollars to the global infrastructure area. So it accounts the total global infrastructure investment around 30%. So I think China will now provide its help or to the other countries, and I think that other developing countries, they also hope that they can get the dividend of the Chinese development. The third and last implication is that I think that now China, we can provide more public goods to the global governance, because now global governance, we face many uncertainties and challenges, such like the climate change or the public health, etc. I think that China now is willing, and also we think that we have more resources than compared with in the past to provide more public goods to the global governance system. Of course, I think that the Chinese good willingness to some other countries, specific very few countries, I think that that will cause some uneasiness. But I think that the Chinese philosophy is that if we look at the longer term, that maybe the who loves last will love the best. So to conclude that, I think although China has achieved a great achievement, but there are still a very long way to for our development. We still face many challenges domestically and externals, and we also there are many uncertainties and quite difficult challenges, etc. So we will stay calm and keep learning, keep alert, and try to focus on our domestic development, while on the same time to contribute to provide more public goods to the global governance. Thanks, Chen. I would like to stop here.